And now that you're being worked on your heart, tell me more about those swirling energies and what's the change that's happening in your heart, in your body.
My heart and my body just gets a bit of an imprint on what's happening on higher realms. A bit again, a sensation of that home that I was talking to you about, and that power, and that you can safely dwell in this complex, that you are not under threat. And again, like I said a bit earlier, it brings a bit more coherence. I know that what I'm saying might not seem like much for human minds that are so used to always getting a lot of detail about the process and how everything works. But you see, here where I dwell as a higher aspect, we do not need those details
Mm.
because we just create. And it is not of much importance how things happen exactly when they happen. The best explanation you get is the feeling
Mm-hmm.
and the knowingness of what happens and why that happens.
And how can one be more aware of that feeling?
Well, you see, like I explained a bit earlier, that need for validation, that's just residual energy compound
Mm-hmm.
around my heart.
Mm-hmm.
That is just a result from the primordial separation from your higher aspects and the fear that comes when you find yourself in the darkness by yourself. Many times in a world that you don't understand and doesn't feel close to you, doesn't feel like family, you run for acceptance and validation on the outside of yourself because, well, for survival. Because survival seems to be the most important thing here for many lifetimes, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
So to maintain that feeling that you were asking me about earlier, the feeling of home and coherence, you have to retract from the outside, and you have to retract from the need to seek that validation on the exterior, because you are seeking home and validation in a world that was created by your home for certain lessons to be learned in the creative process of different types of consciousnesses. So you cannot, if you will, maybe for a better understanding, following the same line of thought that I gave a bit earlier with the cookbook, it's almost like, let's say you don't feel good and you're sad and you cook a pie. It's your own creation. The pie is what you made it, but then you go and by eating it, you seek home in your pie.
right, very good.
It's exactly the same thing with the higher consciousness here on earth. This is our creation. We
Mm-hmm.
created this matrix for the purpose of evolutionary development, for the purpose of experimentation and fun and games and joy, right? But then we forgot and we went home. We left home, sorry. We came here, we forgot, and we started looking for home here. So you have to retreat from this world that we've created. You have to leave your pie alone and start seeing for what it is, a pie,
Mm-hmm.
and go back to your real home, which dwells within your heart,
Ah.
on the inside, a bit above your heart and your mind. There's different layers. Seek forever onwards and upwards, and then you'll find your home. It might take time. It might take getting used to. Nothing comes easy from this stance. It's the way it's meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
But you will ultimately find it if you are persisting enough on your path, seeking it.
Very good. Thank you for that beautiful explanation. Is this the reason why she um, had this isolation time for spiritual awakening? Um, and as a side effect to that, she lost the connection with the 3D outside world.
Absolutely. Yes. Because you see, when you are not used to working in these confinements and you are not exposed to the darkness full on, if you wish, the darkness that you experience, of course, they were organized as lessons, but when they are experienced in childhood, they really tend to create deep claws that just cling to you for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you see them sometimes for what they are, you just cannot get rid of it. You cannot wash yourself off of it.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot wash them off of yourself. Sorry. So this this being that I've created was meant to fully retreat from the world in very much a way as hermits do, if you wish. There are people that dedicate a lifetime to that. And it was very much similar to what they're doing in order to get those claws of darkness off of her being
Mm-hmm.
so she can grow her wings again and so she can channel her power without fear of rejection or any other type of fear. Once again, it was meant to be like that. Of course, there were different paths because this being itself is an experiment for the time, for the first time here of this higher aspect working through this type of vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can be clumsy. That's the fun.
Yeah,
It's the journey to,
in a human body.
yes.
Very good. Any wisdom, any advices on how to navigate this new chapter for her as to have more power and strength to move forward and take more creative action, I guess.
Well, I am going to state it the way I see it from here at this point of time. It's not an easy process. And this life path that I've chosen through this vehicle bears the imprint of a slowly developing process, if you will. It's nothing miraculous in the way certain people expect when they think of spirituality, because this vehicle that has been created and the energetic compound that goes with it was specifically created to be able to slowly implement energetic changes and imprint into the matrix so that it can sediment and create a path for the next ones, you see.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy process. Sometimes it's a struggle, it's too much, and rightfully so, because unfortunately for the personality didn't come here necessarily and always for easy fun games from a human perspective, because whatever seems fun for a high being is tremendously hard and frustrating for the human complex.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the human needs to let go, in the sense, whatever you call ego dissolution. Most of the times, this perpetual grinding and mutual rejection with the outside worlds happens, and it's being amplified by the ego wanting to take charge, the ego thinking, the ego meaning the personality complex that was created, thinking that they are in charge of this change, or they have to implement these things. They have to understand and remember that it's not so. More, they are the vehicle once more, and they need to trust the process a bit more and let the higher aspects take over. But that comes at a price. And the price that the personality needs to pay is sometimes confusion,
Mm-hmm.
lack of knowing, lack of control. You do not know what the day brings because you are not in charge. So then the human has to just a second, to exchange that need for that security and control with trust. And again, this is not easy because it hasn't been practiced much on earth, but that's why I'm here. And that's why I've created this complex. So through my own power and the power of the universe that I channel through me, I can push this complex forward in doing so.
Okay.
And patience. Patience is what it needs to be done and what it needs to have in these times. And I'm talking now again about this complex, this being and other beings just like her at this time who came on a mission. Sometimes you look around, you want an easier life, but that you're not meant for that easier life. And sometimes you're tired of doing the work and you want to escape. That's normal, and you're allowed. You're
Very.
allowed to escape sometimes, really. Just do whatever a human enjoys doing. That's perfectly fine. There's no judgment. But then again, you always need to come back to the mission. And even if you want to escape a bit more, don't worry, you'll be pulled back.
Okay. You're in charge of that, I guess.
We all are. It's not just me. I know it's not fun and games from different levels, but believe me, we all work in harmony
Mm-hmm.
from behind the scenes. And just give yourself, as humans, as that consciousness that is now transitioning 3D, 4D, 5D now, give yourselves to that process of trust and learn to enjoy the process as much as you can from that level, knowing that struggle truly is a part of it from time to time, but it's temporary, and learn how to navigate it. Don't run away from it, it creates even more struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a reality of this plane that you're inhabiting right now.
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for this being and any other being that finds themselves in similar positions at this time and space.
Mhm. Very good. I was wondering, what is your relationship with this being, this complex that you keep referring to? Why
Oh, I'm
you?
the higher self.
Okay, okay, that's what I thought. And
Yes.
you said earlier that we're at this time we're going through a transition from 3D to 4D and 5. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, as they say here, the only constant is change. It's so it goes for the whole universe. The universe, the whole creation is movement, is moving. Everything constantly gets created and gets destroyed to make more space for new creations.
Mm-hmm.
So it was planned for this specific planet in this time and space, like you call it, to ascend, which
Yes.
is just to develop. It's just a natural stage. I know, again, the human mind tends to make it something, whoa. Sorry. We thought that's how humans express excitement, or,
Yes.
yes. In the sense that it seems outlandish, if you will. Um, it's true that it's leap, if you will. It's a big change in a short time.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, humans need to remember that huge changes in a short time, it's again something normal pervading any type of universe, in the sense of something can be destroyed in a flash to create a huge, like, new
Right.
space to create, right? So the change can be even faster than this. But this
Mm-hmm.
is a fast change for humans to take, because reality was developing at a very slow pace.
Ah.
And so a lot of energy changes that affect, as you can see, I think it's very easy to look around you and see that people have changed so much in a short time. And maybe from a human point of view, some of them have not even changed in the right direction, as you would call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people that you used to know, you look at them, you just don't recognize their behaviors anymore. It's because the increase in energy that has been happening for this change to take place is a bit much on humans to take on. And then it creates certain tensions in the body that further pushes them, well, in certain corners, that, as we would say, doing make them do things, lose their balance. There you go. I think that's a better way of saying it.
And when, let's say, one is losing the balance, what can we do to, go back to being in the flow, I guess, with the higher self?
From where we're standing right now, the way we see it is the only way to get back in the flow is to first acknowledge what's happening. Or if you don't have access to that information where you live, in the place where you're at right now, then at least trust that voice that tells you, well, I've been trying to control these changes that keep on happening to me for a while now, and I just don't seem to be very successful. Things don't seem to happen in the same manner they used to happen before.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't I just let go and trust? And let's see where this takes me. So that's the only way to regain that sense of balance and being in the flow. Let's say you've tried to control your changes. It's normal human process. There's nothing to blame about it. But then if you see it's really not working and the tension is there, still there, and the envisioned results are not yet to be seen, then I think you should listen again to the voice inside of you that says tenderly, just let go and see where that takes you. And because when you let go, it's easier for you to listen to the impulses and messages that spirit world is trying to send you in while guiding you through this process. This is a time where a lot is being done from the inside, meaning from the material world, of course, but rather 99% of it is being done through the material world, meaning spirit has a better grip on this change than people from the inside do, meaning people who are disconnected from that
Mhm.
flow.
Very good. And what kind of change, from your perspective, do you see happening at this time on the planet?
Oh, on this time on the planet, there's a lot of confusion and there is a lot of fear because humans are creatures of habit. So when things are being taken away from them, they get scared. They just don't know what to do anymore. They don't have any basis to rely on.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot, whatever used to work in the past simply doesn't work anymore right now, and they don't know what to do. The toys have been taken away from them. It's funny. Sorry.
So, what is your
So,
advice? How can we, cope? I think
navigate it.
navigate. Yeah.
Like I said, I know it doesn't make a lot of sense from that side, but truly letting go and trust the process and take every day at a time with what the day brings. If the day you get the feeling of, I need to rest, you need to rest. If the day tells you that you need to do something else, or for my own good, or I need to look for certain opportunities, or maybe I need some, I don't know, you see something somewhere, a commercial, and you think, oh, maybe I should lean towards that way, a certain hobby or a certain whatever you wish, how do you call your workshops, or maybe just follow, go with that instinct and see where that takes you, because maybe it's not the workshop or the hobby that you're necessarily pushed to take on. Maybe it's a person that you need to meet while doing those things. But you will never notice things in advance if you only use your lower mind and you only want to control the process. It's the higher realms that see everything and the perfect order of how things need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you make it much easier for us to guide you towards what you need and where you need to be and where you need to go if you actually let go and trust the process, much more so than ever before. These are new territories that you are treading on. And again, another saying that I can read in this energy is, you have to be willing to consent of losing sight of known territories for a very long time if you wish to discover new ones.
Mm-hmm.
Just the old explorer used to do when they were in the chase for new territories. They embraced the unknown. They took the risk of, if you will, at the mental level, from a human perspective, even failure,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing if they were ever gonna find something, at times not even knowing if they were gonna even be able to come back alive.
Mm-hmm.
But they did that with a stronger call for discovering new places. And new is what we are trying to create now. So humans need to be able to be a bit like explorers in the old time, to let go of the known for a very long time and embrace the risk of apparent failure, because this is what a lot of people are afraid of right now: failure, not being able to support yourself or your family, investing a lot of time and financial resource in yourself and not being able to reap the benefits of, as you would say. that's considered by humans a failure. And many examples of this kind. But the new world does not require so much of the old you and everything you've invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, for the most part, the lessons that are basis for the gifts that are going to emerge in this transitional time, and then that you're going to be able to use afterwards. Do trust more your ability to adapt and your ability to be flexible and get creative ideas. This is the only way to navigate it. I think I have a feeling that the substrate of your question, although it might seem straightforward how to cope with this situation or how to navigate, actually lingers more, because solutions, there are always solutions. A person that reached almost the end of its natural life look back and see that everything that they ever feared, or there were moments of feeling that I cannot make it, that's it, I'm done, I don't see anything happening. And when they gave up, there were always someone crossing their path or a new idea trying to infiltrate their minds. And then they always pulled it through. Sure, maybe in a different direction, but definitely in the direction that they needed.
Right.
So I think the substrate of your question is not so much as to how do we cope or how do we navigate. It's more of how do we get rid of the pain and struggle.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yes. Very good.
Because it's so uncomfortable. We don't like living with it. And again, even that it's normal, because at the very core of every human being, there's this longing for home. And home is anything but struggle and pain and unknown.
Yes. And you're also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're also talking about the new coming, like a new place, new earth, new way of living, and new gifts coming into play. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. This new world that I'm talking about is actually a reality that it can even be fragmented, meaning everything coexists in the same time, and I'm sure you know it, but meaning that everyone is in is in its own evolutionary process. So not everyone will reach a certain stage at the same time. Some people are there, some people are getting there, some people will never get there. This new world that I'm talking about, I don't have, I guess, new things to say, because it has been talked about it, and the basis of it is completely different than the old world that you are used to. And as far as we're concerned, it has to do more with acting from the heart rather than the mind. You see, because in the early times of this session, we were talking about how this being suppressed its feminine side because to survive in the old world, which was built upon that survival and suppression of the weak, of what was perceived as weak. This new world encompasses more of the whole. It's a rebalancing of the whole human complex. It's an accepting of both sides that exist, both polarities, we should better say,
Mm-hmm.
that exist within the human being, which is minus and plus, feminine and masculine. It's the polarity that exists in all creation in different percentages, if you will. But they exist. And it starts fresh in the sense of one side doesn't get left behind. You bring it with you. and you act from both sides on the spot for what the moment needs. Because you see, before, the fear of tomorrow, just the fear as the feeling, would make people save for tomorrow or accumulate more than they ever needed. And those accumulations actually was what brought their being down. They couldn't strive for home
Mhm.
because they lived too much in the claws of this old world, which is okay. It's not a judgment, it's how it used to be before. It's the level of the energy. It works as such. But now the time has come for this particular civilization to move beyond that into something new that acts on the moment from the heart, from both polarities, and brings the answer that they need right here and now. That's why we don't know if you personally noticed, but a lot of times people currently and recently are starting having a bit of memory issues. Maybe not severe, but they seem hard to focus on trying to accumulate a lot of knowledge. And there is a reason to do that, because once you step into that transformation, you do not need to storage information into your heads,
Mm.
because knowledge will be available upon a request.
Mm.
Much more easier and much more transparent, because your body being will be lighter as well. So information in the sense of energy will flow a bit more naturally through that body, permeating it with the information that you need. And then you don't have to have that fear around anymore of how am I going to provide. You will have the trust that when you need it, it will come. That is the main difference that we are able to tell about at this time to you. I think this is the main thing that people on average needs to know. For the more developed beings
Mhm.
and their own path, even that is completely individual, because you see, there were so many things that needed to be done in so many aspects of this reality that every developed being that came here on a mission has an extremely personal path. And sure, there are also clusters of beings that came and do things as a group, or there's a groups that share a certain mission in common, but they also have other missions individually. So for those particular beings, and I think it's already more or less of a given right now, they need to go within themselves and retrieve the information for themselves, because it's very different. For there's some common knowledge, but there's also individual messages that they need to get, because everyone is on a different path and a different stage, whatever maybe, whatever you went through, maybe let's say, just saying a few years ago in your evolutionary path, maybe this being is just going through it right now.
Right.
So that's why maybe your advice might not be completely, it's valid, but maybe it's not what the other person needs to hear, because it will create further confusion, because it's a different level we're talking about.
Right.
So that's why every developed being needs to go within. We encourage mentorship and support, but they all need to go within for their own answers and trust those answers.